Okay, it's 7:30. It's December 16th. We are in the Crow Wing County Historic Courthouse in the third floor County Board Room at 326 Laurel Street. I will call to order the Brainerd City Council meeting. Before we get to the second item on our agenda, there was a glove laying on the ground outside of the east entrance. Is anybody missing a black glove?
There.
We got it.
Gabe was going to challenge you to a duel.
Make a motion to change agenda.
Okay, that brings us to the next item, and that's roll call.
Stunek.
Here.
Pritchett.
Here.
Bevins. Here. Badeau.
Here.
Erickson. Here. Lambert.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Menk.
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Lambert, a second by Pritchett to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is the consent calendar. Notice to public, all matters listed are considered routine by the council and will all be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Pritchett, a second by Bevins. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Badeau.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Next up is item 6 on the agenda, presentations. We'll start with 6A, Brainerd Lakes Area Economic Development Corporation, Tyler Glenn.
Good evening, everyone. And as I come flying in here, I think I'm prepared. Hello, Mr. Thureen. How are you this evening? Good. So first and foremost, I want to publicly this evening thank the EDA and the City Council for their continued support of Bladek. These last few months have been kind of a learning experience for us as we transition through to a new executive director. So with a lot of those responsibilities falling on a couple of shoulders in our office, I just want to thank everyone for their support as we continue to move through this. Obviously as a significant funding partner of ours, it's very important that we provide as much information as we can and be as transparent as we can. We are going to have some conversations moving forward on how we're funded, why we're funded the way we are. I know that we've had some conversations around this, and we'd certainly like to build some models so that everybody feels that it is fair and equitable across the board. We're looking at these models. I have some examples that we will be bringing forward. So that, just so that you know that'll be continued to move forward as we move into 2020. Some of the things that we have done this year, just so that everyone is aware, we did establish a quarterly meeting. Our quarterly meetings are to be attended by all of our funding partners, both public and private. We've had 3 of them so far this year. Those came out of the informational sessions that we held for all of our communities, all of our funding partners at the beginning of the year, and we feel that they've been very valuable. The last meeting that we had was well attended by 42 different people, so these meetings are very important, very informative, so they've been great for us to go ahead and do those. Some of the things that, based on the contract that we have an addendum in our contract that calls for a consistent voice for Bladek, and this year in 2019, that voice has been mine. So I hope that the information that I continue to provide and my visibility at your meetings is viewed as something that's very positive for our organization, and I want to make sure that as we continue to move forward that the voice is the same, but also that we continue to provide updated information on a weekly or a monthly basis, and we'll continue to do that certainly moving forward. Just one quick update on the search for our executive director. The first round of interviews were completed last Thursday. 5 individuals were interviewed. They have pared the list down to 2 finalists. They'll have another interview on January 16th with a decision to be made by our board on the 17th based off of those 2 candidates, and hope to have the position filled permanently by the 20th of January. So that's where that is at as of today. Full transparency, I am one of the 2 that is down to the final 2 people that has been interviewed, so just thought I'd make sure that you guys understood that. An update on some of our programs. The Unified Fund, to date, now we have made 15 loans, and those loan totals, we've made 6 so far, we've made 7 so far in 2019. Our total loan amount for those loans, $994,520. So since the inception of this program, which the first loan was in September of 2017, our next one wasn't until January of 18. So we've completed 15 loans. I think we've done a really nice job of being stewards of this money. The loans, 4 of them have been in Baxter, 5 of them have been loans in Brainerd, 1 in Crosby, 1 in Cross Lake, 1 in Emily, and 2 in Nisswa. So I think we've done a really good job with this program. We've had a lot of employees that have been both hired and retained, 138 of those to date. We did have one of our loans, it was actually the largest loan that we've ever done, was the company was from Cross Lake. The company was sold to some investors out of Minneapolis. They will not be losing any jobs. They will not be losing their footprint in Cross Lake, but they have paid off their loan with us. So we received about $177,000 about 4 weeks ago from this payoff. So that's exciting. That meant the money's been out. It's been doing what it's designed to do. And obviously it was great for us to get that money paid back. It opens up some pockets for us to be able to lend out even more. So that's very exciting for us. An update on the key recruitment program. So Mike Bierkness's program within Bladek. To date, he has had 37 direct hires. One of the things that he wanted me to make sure that I mentioned, the average wage of those individuals being hired into our county, $74,545. So he's hiring very key talent, very high-end talent for this county, and it's been something that's been very exciting for us to be part of. Those positions hired, and this is something that Councilman Lambert had asked me about previously. They've been hired in IT, engineering, manufacturing, banking, real estate, and then also he's placed 2 directors for our nonprofits in our county. So that's the program is working, it's working very well, and he's doing a good job. Now with those hires, 7 of them have come from out of state and moved into our community. 2 from Iowa, 1 from Wisconsin, 1 from North Dakota, 2 from Texas, and 1 from Michigan. Along with 19 from the metro area, 1 from Red Wing, and then 11 of them have been from our local area. So that's really showing what this program is doing, is showing that people are willing to come back here if they haven't been here, or they're willing to move into our area to raise their families. Mike does a really good job with this program as far as bringing these individuals and connecting them with the lending institutions, connecting them with real estate agents, and also bringing them through our school system. And in putting them in front of bringing them in, showing them what they're doing with the schools. It's been really exciting for him to do that, and it's worked out very, very well for us. So, and he's also had 37 or 34 different presentations and workshops to businesses over the past year. And that's something that we're looking at, and how we move his program forward is getting this information on hiring trends, giving his information on generations in the workforce and how they all work together, and getting this in front of our manufacturers, getting these in front of our larger companies so that they understand as they're going through some of these hiring ebbs and flows that they're able to put the right people in the right places at the right time. So it's a very, very cool program, but he's done a great job with it. So then lastly, I know that I am here on a pretty regular basis. You guys see me on a regular basis, and that's how I'd like for it to continue. I like to know what's going on in the city. I like to be able to answer questions for those individuals that are trying and looking at us to move their companies here. To date, we've had 127 new projects that have occurred in Crow Wing County since in 2019 up to the end of November. I'll give an updated number at the next council meeting with what we had through the end of the year. Now, there's a lot of questions about what these projects are, about what kind of contacts we have. Now, these are everything from a MnDOT project that I'm actually working on right now that's talking to our local manufacturers and how they move throughout our county, how they get products in and out. So those are some of the things that I'm involved in and working on at a larger level. But also then it's the companies that are looking at our area. There's companies that are looking at us for a lot of different reasons. We do RFPs with requests that come from the state level. I just had a request here that came from a company out of Colorado recently. So there's different things that are coming across our desk, coming across my desk. And so we try to address each one of them individually and try and be responsive to that and make sure that they're getting all the information that they need to make a sound decision on how they're moving forward and whether they move into our community. So I just wanted to make sure I updated on that. And lastly, I'll just open it up if anybody has any questions for me.
Any questions? No, thanks, Tyler.
I really like the microphone, Gabe.
Thank you.
That brings us to the next item on the agenda, 6B, the Brainerd Public Utilities 2020 Operating and Capital Budget Presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Scott Magnuson, Superintendent at BPU. I'm going to start off going over the capital budget. So if you look at page 1, we'll start out there. That's the overall all-department budget, $4.8 million. You'll see it's a little bit higher than 2021. We've got about $500,000 in AMI upgrades on there, so that's why that's a big number. So if you look at page 2, that is the electric department. Kind of touch on some of the bigger ones. A lot of that stuff is kind of the same numbers every year. The distribution transformers, expansion, it's rebuilding, overhead pole lines, underground lines, 30, 40-year life, and we got to kind of start over and replace everything. The big number in there's one for the St. Joe's sub upgrade. We are going to get to that this year. And then the $900,000 is for the AMI upgrade. That's our second $900,000 amount. We had that same amount last year. That's replacing all of the electric meters with new AMI meters. So, and along with that, we're doing the water transmitters also. So, next, page 3 is the water department. We've got we're looking at some new tanks. We talked about this again last year also. We've got the 1935 model concrete tank with a rubber roof, and we've got a 1970 vintage, the aquamarine one down there by the water plant with the lead paint on it. So we're looking at taking both of those out and then building one big tank. So that's the $4 million. The $1 million is the backwash system, the tank on top of the water plant, if anybody can imagine driving by there. That's for the backwash tank, so that will go away also. So clean that up a little bit. We've got some water main projects, B Street and Fifth Avenue, along with the street department. We're going to do some water upgrades there. You'll see we've got about $3.25 million in there, and then $200,000 for AMI upgrades for water also. So, moving on to page 3 to the wastewater department, we're going to spend some money over there this year. We've had some, I don't want to say issues, but some stuff that hasn't worked exactly how it should since we turned the plant on in 2011. So we're gonna get those cleaned up this year. So, and then down there, 06 under improvements is a storage tank, $2.5 million ticket there. That's the sludge tank. We had a 400,000 tank. We added a 1 million gallon tank, and it's not big enough. So we're gonna looking at probably adding a little more storage. So. Then the AMI upgrade also is for the wastewater. So we need the water meter to build the wastewater also. So, moving on to page 5 in the hydro department, not a lot of big ticket items there. We're gonna get some painting done and get some roof repair done. The generator maintenance, we're gonna spend about $50,000 a year. Our insurance company wanted us to do that, drain a pit, do a pit inspection. We did our first one this year. Make sure the concrete looks good, make sure all the mechanical parts in the water pit are working. And at the same time, then we'll maintain the actual dry generator on the dry side and make sure everything's up to snuff there. So,
Scott, question.
yeah,
What's up with the turbine?
The turbine is, the latest on the turbine is it's going to go in May. Weather depending. So he came up 2 months ago, I think, and gave a presentation to the commission on it. He had a problem with overheating, and found out it was the way the coils were wrapped. So he found a company that can fix that problem for him. So he thinks he's got his overheating problem fixed. So he plans on getting that in this summer. So we've got that in 2021 to possibly purchase that turbine, but that will be determined. If it's not that turbine, it will probably be something else, so. Moving on to page 6 then, the admin department. We've got the FitQuest demo on there. We're looking at probably tearing that thing down. Try to get the police in there, maybe do a little more training, hopefully, if they want to. Do some fire training in there before we do, and then we're going to take it down, so. Custodial, we're going to get 2 new mowers, commercial-sized mowers. We're going to trade in our green and get some red ones, try them out, so. Then computer system improvements, we're moving our a backup server off-site up in Nisswa, so we're going to spend some money with that, so. That's the capital budget in a nutshell. Any questions on that?
Any questions? I have one question. The mayor mentioned at our last council meeting that you guys are looking at building a solar field. I didn't see anything in the capital budget.
The way that would work is we would have a purchase power agreement with the developer of the solar field, who is our current energy supplier.
Yep.
So they would build the solar field, and we would just buy the power from them. So instead of buying it from wherever they make it from, we would also buy that. So we don't have.
They'll build it,
Yep.
our power rates or
don't-
whatever the power rates are, and
Yep. So we have zero capital
build it, they
costs.
maintain it,
Yep.
they lease the land out at the airport.
We're going to lease the land. We're working on that with the airport right now. And then we'll sublease to AEP,
Yep.
the power provider, who's the solar developer.
So we'll probably never own the actual solar field.
We're working on an option. They have the tax incentives. So
Yep.
when those are gone, they're usually about year 7 or 8, then we would possibly have the purchase to buy it at that point. But we would also have to buy out the rest of the, for the power that we're providing, so that they're providing to us for 30 years, as that's part of the price. So we would have to buy out from year 9 to 30 for X amount of dollars. So we have another call with them tomorrow morning to talk about that exhibit. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
No other questions? Move on to the operating budget.
Thank you for putting up with us tonight. Looking back, this will be my 18th time coming before you guys to talk about budgets. And so I think my days are numbered in the future here, but I've enjoyed doing these budget presentations most of the time. But Scott mentioned the solar array. That will be I think a great asset for the city and for the airport and for this community. In total, I think the price that we will be able to get, we're still working on the final number on that. We'll make it so that we will be able to develop what we call a renewable rate that we'll be able to, offer to our customers. And with the generation at the hydro and with what we can get off the solar array, we will probably be almost 20% renewable, the city of Brainerd. So that's a big step in the right direction, I guess. So, but until then, we have the operating budget. So I want to go through everything starting on page 7, line by line. No, actually, I want you to just go to the graphs. Page 21 through like 23. There's a graph here that Connie has up here, has to do with assets of the utility. I just wanted to put that up there, basically like a 5-year history. Right now, with our 3 different departments, our electric, water, and our wastewater department, in total there, we are basically a $90 million business. And you can see the breakout there. And of course, then you got the flip side. You got the next page there that kind of talks about the liabilities that we would have. And the liabilities are are, up like in the mid-40s, 40 million plus. Most of that is debt related to a lot of large infrastructure projects. The good news is we got about 8 years left on the wastewater bonds, the bonds that we're sharing the debt with the city of Baxter. That's probably our biggest bond issue. We've got a couple electric bond issues, one of them dealing with the hydro. And so those make up probably the bulk of our liabilities. The next graph there is the one that shows the just assets and liabilities, and then the difference between is our net position or equity in the utility. And the bigger the gap, the better the number. That means that our assets are higher than our liabilities there. So that's just for informational purposes for you to let you know the different things that we're attempting to do out at the utility. So going on then to I think that's page 21. This kind of just shows our revenues through the years, the three different utilities. Back in 2016, it was $25 million was the revenue, and you can see it's been going up slightly. Another way that I look at it is you take the total revenue and divide it by the number of days in a year. We're basically generating, back in 2016, it was $69,000 a day in revenue, and in the proposed budget for 2020, it will work out to about $78,000. The interesting thing, I think, also is the dark blue line is the electric department. That revenue is projected here to be pretty much flat. The good news is that we are now in our 5th month with the new power provider, and we're able to show some savings from what we had with the other provider. And so what we started last year was the electric rates didn't raise probably for most of the rate classes that we had. And so probably later next summer, we'll be looking at them again, working on that demand charge. You may have seen that on your bill maybe, working that number down some more. And so we're hoping to make the rates more attractive also for economic development purposes. So going to the next page then, this one shows all of our expenses. And by far our largest one is our power that we're purchasing. And also, like I had mentioned on the previous graph there, back in 2016, our revenue was averaging $69,000 a day. Well, guess what? Our expenses were $69,000 a day back in 2016. And working across, and the budget for 2020 is averaging, probably comes out to $72,000 a day. So the difference between the 78,000 and the 72 is the bottom line, black rather than red. When Scott did the capital budget, he was, showing a total budget of about $4.8 million in various projects. And one of the items is in our expense thing is our depreciation, and that is approximately $4.7 million. So almost everything that we'll be planning to do next year will be coming out of our operating. A little bit will be coming out of cash reserves. And so that's the good news, we think. The less we have to borrow, the better. We do have some big water projects and, tanks that we may be having to come to the council to talk about an issue related to some bond issues related to that. But, and so that is, that graph there is your expenses. The next one is basically putting them together on one graph and just showing the differences between the revenues and expenses over the years. And you can see back in 2016, it was a negative situation, net loss overall for the utility. But since then, one of the reasons was we've had rate adjustments in those years. And so, so that we're hoping that we'll be able to level those out. Water rates may have to continue to rise because we have a significant project that we're continuing to pay for that went out to the airport, and so we will need to deal with that for the next few years. But hopefully we'll be able to stabilize our electric rates. Then the last page is more or less just a statistic page that'll give you some data on the kilowatt hours that we're buying, kilowatt hours that we're selling. And then the last line in each section there is one of the numbers that I present to the commission each month is the number of customers. So our electric customers are, 8,140. I'm estimating at the end of the year, and you can see where that was in 2015. We've gone up, a couple hundred meters there. It shows our water sales, and then in the bottom section there is our waste treatment, the gallons that are coming in from the various sources. We continue to have still a significant number of gallons. You'll see a line that says system loss there. It's the 206,000, 206 million. There's 3 zeros that I didn't put on the end of these, but that's basically some of the I&I issues that we have, infiltration, inflow into the sanitary sewer system of the city. And so we continue to work with the engineering department to find out where those spots are and, to deal with fixing them and getting that number reduced, because for all of those gallons that are flowing, I did a calculation that'll run through 4 or 5 lift stations and the additional wear and tear on all of those things. So, but that's just for your information. That's kind of a brief overview of the operating budget. Yes?
Quick question, Todd. Can you describe the type of customer that has water but not wastewater? Like there's 90 people that are hooked up to water from BPU, but they don't have wastewater service.
Yeah, there's some that, for instance, like apartment places may have more water meters, but they may only have one wastewater.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there is no separate meter for wastewater. It's billed off of the water meter.
Mm-hmm.
But we also then have, we have some water customers that are outside of the city of Brainerd. They're in township type of thing. Some of them are not, on sewer, but yeah, generally speaking, you will always have a few more water meters than wastewater meters. But maybe by the time I retire, I'll figure out exactly where those are. But there's always been that
Oh, it's
difference.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Oh,
If I may, Mr. President.
Administrator.
Todd, it was perhaps Scott that made reference to your bonded indebtedness in 7 or 8 years is taken care of, what I'm hearing. Is there anything brewing at MPCA or any other agency that would indicate, holy smokes, now we've got to make another, pick your number, investment in our wastewater treatment?
Yeah, we keep, in fact, we're in a permitting phase right now. There's 5-year permits that we get from the MPCA to operate our plant. And, right now it looks like they may put, we call it a parameter, something we have to monitor. And this time around it may be copper type of thing. And you may have been hearing maybe, dealings with PFOS and PFOS over the years. Well, we actually have one of those on our permit already. We're one of the few in the nation that actually has that, and we have to monitor it before we built this plant. But when it comes to build things, it may have to do with our sludge hauling. There may come a time, because we apply it to the fields kind of east and south of Brainerd in that area, and with more restrictions going into place on what can be applied and things. And so we're in the early stages of trying to figure out what are the different options of dealing with sludge. They make it into cakes and they take it to landfills. Well, landfills sometimes don't want this stuff at the end. It is great stuff for the farmers. They get 20-foot corn out of some of this stuff. But even you have a green field and a drought with some of this stuff. So it does have a purpose, but it's getting that we have to haul this stuff further and further. A lot of our crew is spent just, with these 2 trucks and getting out there. And so we're at the early phases of that. Mercury, we thought, was going to be an issue a few years ago. They've kind of backed off of having that, where you'd have to have a filter to take out mercury in the water supply. But But yeah, whatever we do there, you know, I don't see it in the next few years, but it could be in the next, 7, 8 years. There may be something that comes on the next permit. That's why we own the property around that facility out there for future things that we may have to do. So.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the capital and operating budget as approved by the PUC.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Lambert, second by Bevins. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That brings us to the next item on the agenda, number 7, council committee reports. And we'll start with the Safety and Public Works Committee, Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 4 agenda items. The first one is the Crow Wing County Draft Cost Share Policy Public Comment Period. And I'll see if, Mr. Sandy, can I carry this? Yeah, right. So we've got the policy in there, and there was a meeting just today by our staff and Crow Wing County staff, and the recommendation is that we would have no comment, and therefore there would be no motion needed. But if you have questions, now would be the time to ask them. So this is basically a policy on how we handle if the county initiates a road project in the city of Brainerd, if we initiate a project on a county road, or if a developer initiates it. So it's the policy. It seems to be adequate as is to our staff and to the Safety and Public Works Committee. So there is no motion on this item.
Any questions of the committee or the engineer? Seeing none, go ahead and move on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 2 is improvement 1901, the Northwest 4th Street reconstruction, roundabout treatments and aesthetics. As you recall, we talked about this a meeting or so ago. The motion is, out of committee, is to accept Bolton Menk's proposal at $77,000, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Bevins, second by Lambert. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, there was consideration in committee to remove the colored concrete on the roundabout and on the islands. As you recall, we tried to make this look similar to what we've got on College Drive, but also to be more maintainable. We decided to leave it in because the entire project right now is roughly $200,000 under budget. If we remove the colored concrete, that saves $20,000, but it does seem to add to the project. So we left it in for your discussion, and that's why the motion is to include the proposal as presented.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 4 is a resolution agreeing to maintain the facility for transportation alternatives funding related to the 28th Street connection, and I move that we adopt that resolution.
Second.
We have a motion by Bevins and a second by Pritchett. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek?
Yes.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Bevins?
Yes.
Bedell?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes, that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And our last item is also relating to improvement 19-18, the connection to the 28th Street Trail. And the motion is that we adopt the attached resolution, which agrees to well, it says to maintain the one again. Hang on. Well, number 4 is that we resolve for the sponsorship for transportation alternatives funding related to the trail construction on Trunk Highway 25 between 5th Avenue Northeast and 28th Street Southeast, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Bevins, second by Lambert. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek?
Yes.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Bevins?
Yes.
Bedell?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes, that motion carries.
End of report.
All right, that brings us to 7B, Personnel and Finance Committee. Alderman Bedell.
All right, we have 5 items on our agenda. The first of which is the payment of bills and transfer of funds with the change in what's worded there. It says fire to fire capital fund. It should be from public safety to capital fire fund per FAB agreement in the amount of 98,997, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Bordeaux, a second by Stunek. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Bordeaux.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
yes,
Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries.
All right, item number 2 is the Mississippi Landing Trailhead proposal for cost estimating. And the motion coming out of committee is to approve the $2,050 to supplement the Mississippi Riverfront Committee's $2,500 contribution towards SEH's Mississippi Landing Trailhead proposal for cost estimating. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Bordeaux, a second by Erickson. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, so in the weird way that seems to be worded, what this is the trailhead is looking to get an estimate for what it's going to cost. It's hard to move a project forward without knowing what it's going to cost. They're asking for us to do a little bit of matching funds. Their proportion, the $2,500, is coming from money that they made selling banner ads to businesses along the river. So it's kind of a nice little project there. We've got some community involvement, we've got business involvement, and then they're asking us to put a little skin in the game as well.
Where do you see this $2,050 coming from?
Oh, I apologize. That was coming from and this should be a part of the motion as well, the unallocated miscellaneous expense.
My favorite.
Yes, I know it is. There was some debate about having it come from the council's own little private budget, but, we knew that you would like the unallocated.
Yeah, I'm glad every time I see a bunch of money in the unallocated miscellaneous. I know that's transparency the taxpayers demand.
That's right. Well, we know where it's going now.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
All right, number 3 is the shared services agreement between the city and the EDA. And the motion coming out of committee is to approve the shared services agreement between the city and the EDA and to authorize signatures of the document. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
All right, so this one's a little different than what we normally do. Historically, 20% of the city administrators and 5% of the city, of the administrative specialist time is budgeted towards this. This is slightly different. Last year, in 2019, this year, $37,305 was what was budgeted. This is slightly less, so we will be receiving a slightly less amount of money, coming down to $32,500.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
All right, and our next item is resolutions declaring intent to reimburse expenses with debt proceeds. And we have 3 motions, so we'll just get one going here and then we'll talk about it. The first motion is declaring the official intent of the city of Brainerd to reimburse certain expenditures from the proceeds of bonds to be issued by the city related to capital equipment, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Okay, so there's going to be 3 of these here. Basically, how this is working is we will be looking to bond for equipment, street improvements, and the Memorial Park project. And basically, what's going to happen is we're going to be taking on, or we're going to be paying for things before we take on the debt for them. So we basically have to declare that we are going to pay ourselves back.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Bordeaux.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
yes,
Johnson.
Yes, motion carries.
All right, so following up, the second part of that is a motion declaring the official intent of the city of Brainerd to reimburse certain expenditures from the proceeds of bonds to be issued by the city related to assemble improvements.
It should be accessible.
Should be accessible. Maybe
Sorry.
I'm reading that wrong. I am reading that wrong. That is accessible. That does say accessible. Maybe I need glasses.
Must be getting Legos. I got a pair right
I was going to say, that does not sound right, but okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Bordeaux.
Yeah, I believe yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
yes,
Johnson.
Yes, motion carries.
All right, the last one, and we'll try to get through this one a little bit cleaner, is the motion declaring the official intent of the city of Brainerd to reimburse certain expenditures from the proceeds of bonds to be issued to the city related to parks, or excuse me, to the Parks Project.
Almost.
So
We have a
close.
motion and a second. It was closer that time.
All the words that were the same were correct.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek?
Yes.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Bevins?
Yes.
Bordeaux?
Yes.
Erickson? Yes. Lambert?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes, motion carries.
All right, and our last item is a 2020 nuisance assessment at 403 6th Street Southwest. And the motion coming out of committee is to deny the waiver of the nuisance of $125, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So the gentleman here, Mr. Wilkinson, was unable to attend our meeting, but he is here, so if you'd like to give him a chance to speak. But before we do, the committee looking at, or basically we're looking at this, two parts to it. One, the time frame has kind of passed. We've already passed this on. It's been certified to the tax rolls. So that was a part of our discussion downstairs. And also within his letter, he speaks of contacting City Hall and being told that if he covered up the car with a tarp, that the nuisance would be voided, which should not be our policy. But a secondary part to this in discussion that we had was perhaps sending this over to Safety and Public Works to look at what our policy is if someone is issued a nuisance for a vehicle with tabs that are expired. Currently, if we can't see the tabs, then we don't continue to issue any
Well, we
nuisance
can't
for
just
them.
go lifting tarps on people's private property all
Well,
during
but
the day.
if the car, and this is why we're saying that if Safety and Public Works wants to take a look at this, they could. The idea being that once we know that a vehicle is unlicensed, does that then fall on us to continue to prove that it is unlicensed, or can you just, in the case of my next door neighbor, for 8 months, just stuck a log in front of their license plate, and then finally when the wind blew it over, they got another citation and the car was removed. But, currently our policy is not that. But in this case, our motion was to deny this waiver. However, the gentleman is here if you would like to let him speak.
Yeah, I would have liked to before the motion. We had a motion on the floor, but I'll still absolutely welcome him to come up and tell us his side of the story. So when you come up to the mic, just say your name and address.
Well, forgive me, I've never been to anything like this. My name is Rich Wilkinson. I live at the property where the citation was issued. And forgive me, I don't have a lot of names and dates memorized, as it did go over a period of time, about 6 months approximately. So back in like June or July, I was issued the citation on the car in question, which shortly after discussing with, I can't remember exactly his name, I believe it was a Mike or a Mark, who I contacted in City Hall when I called, had a pretty lengthy discussion, and we came to the agreement, and I wish I would have had it maybe notated by somebody else or something, or got a letter certifying this, that it was a car I was working on and didn't have the garage space at the time, and asked what I could do to get the citation lifted, and we agreed that if I covered it, it was a thought that I had, and he said, well, if it's covered, then I can't prove that, basically. And I do see your point about that, and that makes sense. So I went that night, and I covered it, and he said he would have whoever check the next day, and I never heard anything about it until recently in the middle of November. I got a letter, and I wasn't sure it was even regarding this situation, about a $125 citation, so I called and was pretty rudely treated on the phone by a Jason, somebody at City Hall. He basically told me, no, I need to pay it, wouldn't really investigate the discussion I told him I had with this Mike or Mark back in June or July when I got the original citation. And then I spoke with Dave Chansky recently last week about it, got in touch with him. It took a couple days, but he was nice enough to hear me out, and he agreed there was like a communication issue there, and advised me that it had gotten so far through the chain of everything that I had to write the letter that maybe you guys have or seen a copy of. And I apologize, I missed that earlier. I think I was misinformed the time on there. That may have been my mistake. And I appreciate the time now to try and clear this up, but So I wrote him that letter and tried to briefly explain everything as best I could with the knowledge of the time frame and everything that I had, to try and, get this figured out. And I was told that the ticket would be taken care of. I wouldn't be issued the ticket. This isn't the first time I've contacted the city of Brainerd about a car that I had. There was one other time when I recently moved into Brainerd. I hadn't lived in the city limits before. I was given one and I asked what I could do, and they said, well, you either need to get tabs on the car, move it, or sell it. So I sold the car and proved that, and that citation was lifted. This was back in like 2015, I believe, when I moved to the residence, 403.
What's the status of this car?
This car I sold like 2 weeks after I got the citation because I couldn't get the parts that I needed in time, and I had a buyer lined up. So I just decided to scrap the project. I'm a mechanic by trade, so I tinker with stuff, and I don't know if any of you guys can maybe appreciate that, or kind of the struggle of space with cars and finding parts and trying to find time for some of this stuff. But yeah, the car's been sold since. I don't have any other cars with bad tabs, and it's not something I intend to do intentionally. I tried to do what I could to resolve it, and was
Okay.
hoping we could
Did-
maybe get
does
this
anybody have a
figured out.
I do. I guess I want to make sure I have this clear in my mind. What you're asking to be waived is the citation, the first citation. You only received one citation on this item, correct?
As far as I'm aware, there's a $125 citation for, I believe I see the picture here on this desk, for a silver Subaru wagon, yeah.
Okay, so, but that's what you want waived, but and once you covered it, you did not get any further citations.
No, not that I know of.
Okay,
And yep,
So Connie, we certified everything to the county, and they're working on property taxes now, and there's going to be $125 added to his tax bill no matter what we do. Or am I wrong?
There may be some time that we could tell the county if they haven't sent everything over yet. I mean, there might still be some time, but if they've sent it to the printer already, it's too late. But I would think that we could tell them that it could be, but I would definitely watch your tax statement to make sure that it didn't get printed on there.
okay. Not to interrupt if you're done. I do have a kind of a question on this. So, I talked to whoever back in June or July, and then I didn't get another letter about it until November. Is there a reason? Is that like standard when it doesn't get paid?
After,
I mean,
I
that
believe
seems like
after
a real.
you have corrected any problems, they don't send you a letter saying, congratulations, you have corrected the problem.
Well, right, and what kind of sucks about that is now here in November I got it again, and then now to you guys it looks like I just ignored it, which isn't the case. I thought it was resolved, and now it seems like a length of time. I just
Right, and the
blew
one
it
you
off.
received in November, you should have come down to the meeting we held in November and
I wasn't-
appealed it then, is when the formal appeal process.
I wasn't informed of any. I didn't know I had even had that option. I don't deal with a lot of things like this, so I apologize. And Dave was nice enough to tell me that this is how it worked now, and to write the letter to present to you guys or whoever saw it. So I just thought it was kind of weird that much time went by. I mean, I understand they don't tell you, hey, okay, it's good to go, but we're talking like 4 months
Yeah,
there
we
or
just do it
more.
once a year. It's something we do every November for.
Oh, okay, and I'm not aware of this. It's my first time having to deal with something like this, so.
Mr. Wilkinson? I support the motion, just so you know, that you have to pay it. And I'll explain to you why. I've gotten this letter. I don't know what your letter said, but my letter said, license the vehicle or pay this fine. Did yours say something like that?
I don't have it in front of me, I can't say that,
But
but,
something like that?
yeah,
Why didn't you license the vehicle?
because I
That's
was,
my question to you.
because the car wasn't running yet, and I didn't have the parts to get it running, and then I didn't know if I was keeping it. So then
But
I
the
sold
letter
it.
said, license the vehicle or pay the fine.
So why then did somebody, when I discussed with them, tell me that I could cover the car and the ticket would be taken care of? And then 6 months goes by, and now here I am having to try and plead my case to you guys.
I can't answer that. I
Oh,
wasn't on
okay,
that
so
phone
then
call,
I'm just
but I know
supposed to
what
be-
the letter said, because I have one. I
Okay,
gave my copy and it said, license the vehicle or pay the fine.
okay.
I'm just asking.
But why have they
That
done it
was the
before
other
for me?
alternative, was to license the vehicle.
But
And
this
I'm not
is-
trying to be mad at you.
I know.
I'm just saying you went to a lot of effort and made a lot of phone calls to avoid the fine. Why not license the vehicle?
because I wasn't planning on keeping it, and I wasn't aware of that until after I couldn't require
But
the
you
parts for
received a
it.
letter saying you had to, or pay the fine. That's my point. My
Well,
point is it was your choice.
Okay, but I called to explore other options, and I'm given other options, and then here I am. The options apparently weren't valid, that I was told. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Can't answer that. And I'm
Okay.
sorry, I wasn't on those phone calls.
I know you weren't, and I wish
But
you
I know
know, I
what the
had better
letter said.
documentation of that stuff, but
Yep.
unfortunately, I didn't think it was gonna come to this, so.
Yeah, so does anybody else have any questions or comments? I'm going to say I oppose the motion. I think we should see if we can contact the county, get that $125 written off, and fix our communication from City Hall to the citizens. But
Mr. Chair, I'm going to support the motion because you didn't receive any further citations after you did the covering. But I do agree with Mr. Bevins that it is very specific.
So then again, why when I contact somebody, do they tell me I have options? That part doesn't make sense. And I know you can't explain that. You weren't there. I can't even remember the exact name of the person, but I did talk to somebody. And I was told that if I cover the car, and
But
I was
you-
very specific that, okay, I will not have this fine now, correct? And
But if you
that
covered
was-
the car, you didn't get any further citations.
that wasn't the agreed, that wasn't the
let's direct all
discussion.
conversation to the chair, please.
Oh,
Sorry.
so, but I will support the motion.
Any other discussion?
I'll just simply note that part of my supporting of the motion was that you were not in attendance, which tends to lean me towards supporting keeping it. It's a small amount, but it is also, it is a fine for having a vehicle there, and you did previously have the previous experience with it. I would like to see us make sure that this is not what we're telling people, that just cover it up, because that's the issue is we want to get rid of the vehicle or get it licensed. And I'm glad that you took care of that, because we've seen these things balloon up to $2,300, and it makes me sick every time that happens. But as the chair, I will continue to support the motion, because that's the motion that came out of committee.
I just want to say, just real quickly, I kind of look at it, I think our goal is to take care of the problem, and I think the problem was taken care of. Where I'm having the trouble is, Mr. Wilkinson called City Hall and was told that if you put a tarp over it, it was okay. We don't send anything saying it's taken care of. There's a lot of citizens out there that don't deal with the intricacies of city government. And, you think that if you called up and said, do this, it's going to be okay. They think it's okay. I think we do need to look into that, because we do have a situation like your neighbor where they just put a log in front of it. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Right, and that wasn't my intention, was to have it sit around and be
Right.
a pile of junk, a nuisance. It was just a lack of space that I didn't have at the time, and it did sit there, and I did what I could to try and take care of it, and then eventually decided it wasn't worth keeping it, so I then got rid of it.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion to uphold the fine, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries. Thanks for coming in. That brings us to the next item, or no, we're still on yours, Alderman Badot?
End of report.
End of report. Then that brings us to unfinished business, call for applicants, Mayor.
Okay. At this time, I've got a number of open positions on various boards and committees. All of these terms will expire December 31st of the said year. On the Cable TV Advisory Committee, I have 2 terms expiring in 2019, which is just a couple of days from now, and 2 terms expiring in 2021. On the Charter Commission, I've got 1 term expiring in 2019, 2 terms expiring in 2020. 1 term expiring in 2021, 1 term expiring in 2022. And then on HRA, Housing Redevelopment Authority, I got 1 term expiring in 2019. On the Library Board, I've got 2 terms expiring in 2019. Park Board, 1 term expiring in 2019. Public Utilities Commission, PUC, 1 term expiring 2019. And Transportation Advisory Committee, I got 3 terms expiring 2019. And then on the EDA, Economic Development Authority, I have 1 term expiring September 7th of 2020. At this time, I do have a number of applications already presented to us, but I would like to hold off making those recommendations until January 6th, that we can maybe get in one big motion, most of our committees filled.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mayor. And Stephanie, can you send the applications out? I've only received one application all told so far, so I'd like to see all of the applications, please. And I think the whole council would, because we need to approve them. The council president, I have a few commissions I appoint to. I'm looking for applications for an airport commissioner, 3 people on the planning commission, 1 on the police and fire and civil service commission. And then also, we have the water tower committee that Alderman Bedeau.
Yes, still accepting applications to increase the number of people on that committee.
Okay, that brings us to number 9, new business, appeal 601 Madison Street property subdivision. Community Development Director Chansky.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is an appeal for subdivision of property at 601 Madison Street. Attached to your agenda request, you will see a certificate of survey. Situation here is this property is one lot right now. It's got 2 primary structures on it. Property owners are looking to subdivide the property into 2 separate lots with one building on each lot, which is the ideal situation. We don't generally like to have 2 primary structures on one lot. The issue we have here is, as you can kind of see on that certificate of survey, the proposed delineation makes tract A, as I listed in the agenda request, too small according to the city code. This is zoned a B4 general commercial district. In a B4 general commercial, the minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet with a minimum width of 100 feet. Tract A has a lot size of just over 12,000 square feet and a lot width of 91.50 square feet. With this delineation, looking at the delineation from a staff perspective, professional perspective, I do agree this is probably the best spot for it. When you look at the property, how the parking lot is laid out, and then also with the curb cuts and to connect to each property, it really is kind of the preferred situation. However, when I was speaking to the applicant and to Mr. James Kramer, who is the surveyor in this situation, one thing I again came to that it's just too small, and so kind of the options were before the applicant were 2. One, he either could submit a request for a variance to the Planning Commission and go through that stage. To deal with the variance, obviously, we have very strict guidelines coming from state statute that have to be met when it comes to a variance. The other option is what we're coming to today, was that he can submit a request for the subdivision, then I would deny it administratively. I do have that power going from a 1 to 2 to review administratively, and then he has the option per the city code to then appeal my decision to the Board of Zoning Appeals, which is the City Council, and that was what they are doing this evening. And I believe Mr. Kramer is here if you would like to speak on this as well.
Mr. Chair, my name is Jim Kramer. I'm representing the applicant. Most of you probably know this property. It's the Reineke Chiropractic Clinic. The previous building was the office that they had used over the past years. The building on the westerly side has been vacant probably for 6, 7, 8 years as they've been trying to sell the property. They do have a purchase agreement in place, but obviously we need to split the property. There's no feasible way to meet zoning on this. We can't make 2 20,000 square foot lots just basically because we don't have the necessary size. In discussions with the city planner, this was the route we felt fit the situation the best. The variance route could be tried. Technically, it'd be hard to prove a hardship on this because basically the situation was caused by the owner himself. Although that this was probably a non-conforming permitted situation because there was building permits taken out for both structures. We basically got ourselves a situation here where we can't make 2 conforming parcels. The proposed subdivision line was basically placed how it fits the property, and if you look at the sizes of the offices on the property, the parking spaces kind of fit each structure. The small parcel, even though it has 12,000 square feet, does have 10 parking stalls plus a handicap stall for that building, which is about 1,900 square feet, excuse me, on the main level. But we're just at a situation where we're looking for a means to get to the point where we can create 2 parcel IDs so this sale can go through. And I'm certainly open to any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed lot split as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the proposed lot split as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the Brainerd Police Department remodel request to approve quotes.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we opened quotes for the Brainerd Police Department remodel here back on, what was the date? 12/10. You can see a synopsis of the quotes we received in your packet here tonight. The total budgeted amount for the project was $306,360 in total, with the quotes for the security upgrades with the cabling and the door security using existing hardware, and a 15% contingency for construction. We're looking at a total of $306,809, which is approximately $400 of over what we had estimated.
Well, I would say good job, guys. Good estimate.
And if you guys have questions, I do have Kevin Keary here from Integrity Group, if you guys have any questions about the proposed scope.
I have a question kind of related to this. How is the project at City Hall going, and is that on track budget-wise? Because we're not taking out debt for any of these projects, and if City Hall ends up being $1 million over budget, we may have to wait on the police or street department.
Yeah, there's been no significant changes to the budget. There's been, I think, 2 proposal requests for, I'm trying to think of the amounts, not, a couple $1,000s here or there, and mainly that had to do with the city looking at the space and saying, you know what, we don't need carpet here, but we want to put carpet there. There was also one clarifying the ceilings and what they wanted the ceilings, but nothing significant.
Yeah, nothing major.
Short answer, we're well within the contingency level of where we wanted to be.
Okay. Does anybody have questions about the police department bids? No, I'll take a motion, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the quotes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is 2020 levy and budget. Connie.
The 2020 levy for the city and the HRA needs to be set and certified to the county by the end of the month. The HRA levy is within the maximum amount allowed by state statute, and there was a memo that was attached to the agenda request that kind of basically listed out different options of what the council has set. The budget was prepared with a 4% increase to the levy, as that is what was presented during the public hearing. So it currently, right now, is in the general fund, and it will have designated reserves to pay for the, projected 2021 expenses.
Well, okay, I'll entertain a motion from the chair of the Personnel and Finance Committee on adopting the resolution. And don't say a percentage increase, give me a levy amount, because that's how the resolution is filled out.
So what are you looking at there? There we go. So I would like to make a motion to set the levy amount at $6,072,439, and I so move.
Motion to adopt the resolution plugging in $6,072,439 for the city levy, which would be a 3% increase over last year's. Is there any discussion?
Well, we've had a lot of talk about where we need to be in the future, where we are currently. This is a situation in which we have the ability to show the citizens of Brainerd a little bit of reprieve from their taxes. I'd like to make sure that we're understanding that it's not just us There are county taxes, there is money coming from the school district as well. We're seeing some increases in property values. We had a gentleman speak on that. And I think dollar amount jumping between percentages is not a huge amount, but it shows a lot towards the citizens. When they look at that percentage, I think it really says a lot to people that we are looking out after them, that we are trying to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible with their money. And yet at the same time, not setting ourselves up to have a giant increase in the future. We do sadly have to slowly keep increasing a little bit from year to year to make sure that that doesn't happen, mainly because of our personnel costs. But I think it's important to show people that we're willing to compromise a little bit and that we're not just looking to keep pushing their taxes up to keep filling in the money as we go.
Any other discussion?
We don't have a second, do we?
Yeah, we don't have a second.
We don't have a second.
We don't have a second yet.
Is there a second to that? Did you wait
To
for
my
you said all
long-winded,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, you want to say it all again? I'll second the motion.
So we have a motion and a second on the $6,072,439. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Kelly.
I think 4% is better. I think we have more, I'm sorry, $6,131,395 is better. But this will work. I mean, it will work. We can make it do. I think there's the potential to run into expenditures over and above that we may not be able to cover at 3%. But I think this motion deserves a vote, and I think it's a good motion. I apologize, I don't like making the motion or seconding the motion for show. I don't. I think it will work, really will work. So I don't think it's the best for the citizens of Brainerd. I think we do run the risk of under-levying because of the projects we have going this year, City Hall and the parks, for specifics, but I can certainly, I can see we can make this, I think Mr. Bordeaux is right, we can make this happen.
Any other discussion? Gavin?
I think everybody knows where I stand.
Time limits may be imposed.
I'd like to say it to $6,131,395. However, I agree with Councilman Bevins. I think 3% will work. With that said, I don't think I'd get the support on 4%, so I will support the 3%.
Sure. I also agree with the $6,131,395. I think all of them, really, when you look at it, the 3% is workable. I agree with Councilman Bevins. I think the 4% is better.
Mr. Chair, I do also agree the $6,131,000 and $395 is better. We, again, just like everybody said, we have a lot of projects. And I do not support the 3%.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So when we had our budget workshop, my gut said 3%. You know, I think we can make 3% work. I thought 4% was probably where we should be to be comfortable, but I do agree. Let's try to push ourselves, and I think I'll support 3%.
I don't think we're really taking into consideration. You just approved $1.3 million bonding. We're going to have to come up with that money, and down the road, we're going to have to increase a greater amount to cover that.
It's in the debt levy this year, Ed.
Well, everything else is going up, wages are going up. Yes, we do have a contract for most of our unions right now, but the 1% difference, $59,000 round figures, we probably will need that dollars to cover some of the expenses that we have incurred, such as that part. Also, animal control. Yes, it's in there, but there's more expenses that are unexpected that'll be coming up.
Thank you. And we can make do with 1.27% increase. I mean, that's the balanced budget number. We did already increase the debt levy, or left the debt levy flat to account for the debt we are taking out for streets in Memorial Park. So really, 1.27, 1.5%, that's where it should be. This 3%, 4% is that's just taxing a lot of money that we haven't found a purpose for yet. And we should probably know what we're spending the money on before we take it from the citizens. But any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek,
Yes.
Pritchett,
No.
Bevins,
Yes.
Bedot,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
No.
Johnson.
No, that motion carries.
Oh, you are so interesting.
Okay, that's one action we needed. We passed that resolution. Now we need to adopt the budget.
I move to adopt the budget, the 2020 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the 2020 budgets. Is that a resolution or a?
It's just a voice vote, but it will be adjusted a little bit from what was in your packet.
The bottom line number that's
The
saving
bottom
for
line number,
2021 will
right.
be the,
And I would like just to adjust it to make an even round number of 102,000. If I have your permission, I can adjust it by $7, if that's okay with everyone.
I'm okay with that.
That's what it'll be then for the final.
Connie,
amount.
you're slipping.
I know. Oh, goodness, what did I do?
okay, any discussion on adopting the budget adjusted for the change in the levy? Seeing none, we'll vote on, is that roll call? I'm sorry.
Motion?
Do we get a
Yeah,
second?
have a motion and a second. No, she said it was a voice vote.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That motion carries. Oh, well, I was gonna vote no on that too. Dang. Next up on the agenda is the final reading of proposed ordinance 1501, Community Development Director Chansky.
Yep, so proposed ordinance 1501, again, this is the rezoning of 7757 Wise Road from RA Rural Agricultural to R1A Single Family Residential. This was considered again by the Planning Commission on November 20th, and the first reading was held by the City Council on December 2nd, so this is just the final reading. Staff again recommends dispensing with the actual reading of the ordinance and then voting on approving.
Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to hold the final reading dispense with the reading. Did I do
We
that
have a
right?
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Move
That-
to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt proposed ordinance number 1501. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Bedot.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. That brings us to public forum, time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the council. Time limits may be imposed. Is anybody here to speak in public forum? Anybody here to speak in public forum? Is anybody here to speak in public forum? Seeing none, we won't even open the public forum. Number 12. Staff reports, any verbal updates since the packet? And if you do have a report, please step up to the microphone so our people at home can hear you.
Mr. President, I just want to first remind the public that the Planning Commission will not be having their regular meeting this month. We didn't have any items that were pressing that needed to be addressed, so they voted to take the holiday off, so they will not be meeting this Wednesday. Second item, just I want to reiterate what was you said yourself earlier. We are looking for some new members to the Planning Commission, 3 open seats. We have received 1 application, but I have heard from at least 1 member who will not be seeking reappointment. So we are looking for new members from the community to serve on the Planning Commission. We are looking at a number of exciting things happening in 2020, so it should be a good opportunity to help plan for the development of the community moving forward.
Thank you. Any other staff reports, updates? Jim?
If I may, Mr. President and Mayor, council members, just take a few moments to say thank you for this opportunity to come back and serve the citizens of Brainerd. I will tell you that even in my advanced age, I'm still able to learn, and still able to do a few things. And I've really appreciated the fact that I could continue to be a public servant. It's the highest calling that I've received in my life, and I'm honored that you would have me come back and help you during this time of transition. I also want to congratulate you on your hire. Jennifer Bergman is a very qualified candidate. She is an excellent public service. One of the highlights in my business dealings with Jennifer is that she is a terrific listener. And that's a skill that is altogether not often seen in our public, but she's great. She will do an excellent job for you. I urge you to give her your support, time, patience, and you're going to be in good hands with Jennifer Bergman. So now I will, unless there should be the need for another emergency meeting of this council, this will be my last few minutes with you, and I, again, just want to say thank you for the opportunity.
Well, we never said you weren't coming back January 6th, Jim. No,
Well,
I kid.
I've got my plan, so, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Mayor?
I don't know if we've noticed around the room here, several of us are wearing festive ties, and we have at least one festive sweater here celebrating the season. I wish everyone within the city, in the county, and in the United States to have a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. Council member reports, starting with Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you recall at the last meeting, we did make a very public offer for the parking lot property across by the Mill Park. And I did receive, as your representative to BIC, a response from Mr. Higgins. It was just discussion, but I would expect we will get a written response early in January.
Or our take it or leave it offer.
For our take it or leave it offer.
Okay.
Merry Christmas, blessed New Year, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. The HRA update on replacing Jennifer, we did decide to sign a contract with Gary at DDA, so he's going to help the HRA find a new executive director to hopefully lead that organization into the future. And Jim, thank you for coming back. Thank you for taking a few months to just come in and be the interim city administrator at a time when we needed it. You did a fantastic job. You're an utmost professional. I really appreciate that you came back and helped us out and helped the whole city out.
Thank you.
Ditto, the same for Jim. Thank you very much for coming in. And Merry Christmas and safe holiday for everybody.
Yeah, I'd like to echo the sentiment. Jim, thanks again. And as for me, as a new council person coming on, speaking with Jim has been invaluable help to me, so thank you.
Ditto. And ho, ho, ho.
One, I love Kevin's sweater. It's great. That's a good-looking cat you got there. Two, absolutely, thank you, Jim. You helped us out in a situation that we needed. We needed some guidance, and you were a good rock to fall back on. We appreciate that.
Again, thank you.
Yeah, and Merry Christmas.
Looking for a motion?
So moved to adjourn.
A
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Great, Jim's.
Wait, I don't see.
No, who was good?
Yeah, there was,